This is how you figure out the exact house payment that keeps you building wealth instead of drowning in it, and it is not the number your lender approves you for. That gap between what the bank says you can afford and what you can actually afford is the number that changes everything. I want you to know where I'm coming from before we get into this. I bought my first place well under what I was approved for, when everyone around me thought I was being overly cautious. A few years later, I moved up to a bigger place, still under what the bank offered me, and I did it with real cash reserves intact instead of scraping the bottom of my account to close. I've never once been house poor, and that was a choice, not luck. Today I'm giving you the exact playbook I used to figure out my real number, not the bank's number. Here's why this matters so much. Your lender is going to tell you the maximum they'll hand you, and that number is built to maximize what they can lend, not to protect your life. Most banks will approve a mortgage payment up to somewhere around 43% of your gross income when you count everything. That's not a house payment, that's a financial straitjacket. What we're building today isn't retirement money, and it isn't a mansion. Let's be honest. This is about a house payment small enough that a bad month doesn't turn into a crisis. That's the whole goal, and it's worth more than square footage. Here's the urgency piece. Every month you're stretched too thin on housing is a month you're not saving, not investing, not building anything else in your life. But I don't care if you're renting right now with nothing saved, or you're midway through buying a house that already feels too tight. This playbook works from wherever you're standing, and there's no shame in not knowing this stuff before now. Nobody teaches it on purpose. Honestly, today, 7 steps, no fluff, no vague, just be responsible nonsense. Real numbers, real ratios, the exact stuff I used. Before we get into it, drop your target home price or your current mortgage payment in the comments, whichever applies to you. No right or wrong answer, I just want you to say the number out loud, because most people have never actually compared it to their real income on paper. Step 1. Throw out the bank's number and calculate your own using the 25% rule. The bank will happily approve you up to around 43% of your gross income in total debt payments. Ignore that number completely. Instead, calculate 25% of your take-home pay after taxes, not gross, and that's your real ceiling for a total housing payment, including taxes and insurance, not just principal and interest. If you're bringing home $5,000 a month, that's $1,250 total for housing. That's going to feel low compared to what you got approved for. Good, that gap is exactly the buffer that keeps you out of trouble. Step 2, save a specific down payment target, not a vague as much as I can amount. Save as much as you can isn't a plan, it's a wish. Pick a real number. For most people starting out, that's a $50,000 target, which usually gets you to 20% down on a reasonably priced starter home in most markets. Avoiding mortgage insurance completely. I built mine in a separate high-yield account, automated a transfer the day my paycheck landed, same as I tell you to do with any savings goal. Out of sight, out of mind, growing on autopilot instead of studying and checking, waiting to get spent on something else. 20% down isn't a magic requirement. But every percentage point below, it usually adds mortgage insurance costs of $1, sometimes $200 a month for years, for nothing but the privilege of putting less down. Step 3. Calculate total cost of ownership, not just the mortgage payment. This is where people get blindsided after closing. The mortgage payment is maybe 70% of what a house actually costs you monthly. Property taxes, homeowners insurance, and then maintenance. A reasonable rule of thumb is budgeting around 1% of the home's value per year just for upkeep and repairs. So on a $300,000 house, that's roughly $3,000 a year, or $250 a month, just for things breaking. I learned this one the expensive way early on, when a furnace failure ran me close to $4,000 in a single winter, money I hadn't budgeted for at all because I was only thinking about the mortgage number. Add taxes, insurance, and a real maintenance line before you ever decide what price range you're shopping in. Step 4. Get pre-approved for less than the max, on purpose before you ever look at a single listing. Here's what happens if you walk into house hunting with the bank's maximum number in your head. You'll find a house at the top of that range and convince yourself it's fine because it's technically approved. Instead, get pre-approved, then mentally cap yourself at 70. 75% of that approved amount before you look at anything. I did this on my first purchase. I was approved for meaningfully more than what I actually spent, and capping myself before I even toured a house meant I never fell in love with something I couldn't actually afford without stress. This is temporary in the sense that your income will grow and your options will open up. But the discipline of shopping below your max, that part should stick for every home purchase you ever make. Quick aside, because this is exactly the step where people get talked into a shortcut. Somebody's going to tell you an adjustable rate mortgage is smart because the initial payment's lower. For most buyers, that's just a bet that rates won't rise before the adjustment period hits. And when they're wrong, the payment jump can be brutal. And somebody else is going to tell you to buy now regardless of price because you're just paying a landlord's mortgage instead of your own. That's true in some markets and false in others, and it's not a reason to override the math we just did. Skip both. Stick to the ratio, not the narrative. Step 5. Build a fully funded emergency fund before you close, not after. A lot of people put every spare dollar toward the down payment and walk into closing with a healthy down payment and basically nothing left in savings. That's backwards. You want 3 to 6 months of total expenses sitting in cash before you close, separate from your down payment money. Because homeownership guarantees surprise expenses will show up, usually within the first year. I kept a solid emergency fund fully intact through both of my purchases, and it's the reason a busted water heater or an unexpected repair bill has never once put me in a tight spot. Close with cushion, not on fumes. I'll mention this once because a few of you looking at a specific real listing and specific real numbers are going to want more than a general video can give you. That's exactly the kind of situation I work through one-on-one with people, running your actual numbers against your actual market. Links below if you want to apply and see if it's a fit. Most of you can run this playbook yourselves with what's in this video, just leaving that option for the ones who want a second set of eyes on their specific deal. Step 6. Buy for your current life, not your imagined future life. People consistently buy the 4-bedroom house for the kids they don't have yet, or the office and the guest room, and the home gym they're sure they'll use. Buy for the life you're actually living right now, plus maybe one real near-term change you're confident about, not 5 hypothetical future scenarios stacked on top of each other. Every extra bedroom and extra square foot is extra taxes, extra insurance, extra heating and cooling, extra furniture, extra everything. For years, whether you use the space or not. I bought a place sized for exactly what I needed at the time, not what I imagined I might need eventually, and upgraded later in cash flow terms once the actual needs showed up. Step 7, and this is the hardest one. Don't let a bigger paycheck talk you into a bigger house payment. Here's what happens to almost everyone the moment their income jumps. The calculator in their head recalculates what they can afford upward immediately, and within a couple years they're in a house payment that swallowed the entire raise, right back to feeling as tight as before, except now the number's bigger and there's no going back without a huge disruption. I've had significant income growth since my first purchase, and I specifically did not immediately trade up to match it. I kept the ratio disciplined even as the top line number got bigger, because the 25% rule isn't a starter home rule, it's a forever rule. This is the step that actually protects everything you built in the first 6 steps. And it's the one people abandon first the moment they feel successful. So if you remember nothing else, calculate your real number at 25% of take-home pay, save a specific down payment target instead of a vague one, calculate total cost of ownership including maintenance, get pre-approved for more than you'll actually spend, and cap yourself below it. Build your emergency fund before you close, buy for your current life, not an imagined one, and keep the ratio disciplined even when your income climbs. Here's the big picture on why the discipline is worth it. A house payment kept at 25% instead of stretched to 40% frees up meaningful money every single month for the next 30 years, money that, put into a basic low-cost index fund instead of an oversized mortgage, turns into a genuinely life-changing number by the time that mortgage is paid off, on top of the house itself. You get the home and the wealth instead of just the home. One more thing before you go. Somebody's going to watch this entire video and then go get pre-approved for the max anyway because the real estate agent said you can afford more than you think. You can afford it on paper. That's not the same as affording it in real life, and deep down you already know that. I'm not going to pretend this feels good in the moment. Touring a smaller house than you're approved for stings a little, especially when a bigger one is sitting right there with your name basically on it. But this is how you end up owning the house instead of the house owning you. I want to see you get this one right. We'll see you in the next one.